All right, back in the studio, with the one and only Chase Gonzalez here, and obviously this is now the week of the Masters, the 90th edition of the Masters. So today, what I thought would be fun to dive into is, last year we covered a lot of the history of how the Masters started, some of the really key players that were involved in that. We'll touch on some of that today too, but what I really want to dive into is, what were some of the greatest rounds and really the greatest champions, the years that kind of defined the Masters of what we see today. So, yeah, with that, let's just kind of jump in. So a year ago, literally today, we were packing our bags, getting ready to head out to Augusta,
cleaning the clubs,
cleaning the shoes, everything.
Not very well packed, but we did our best.
Even though we went into an absolute torrential downpour at Palmetto, so everything that was clean was then taken out at our Airbnb to dry out.
I think my golf bag was wet for like a week.
Yeah, I've been. My buddy Stan is going this year.
Okay, yeah,
he's been a few times before as well.
Did he buy or did he win?
He won the lottery. This dude's he's incredible. But I have, you can save cities in your weather app.
Oh, yeah.
Certain cities, if you're like, whatever, scrolling through to see what the weather is. I always have Augusta. It's been on there for years. So around this time, I'll start to look, okay, what is the 10-day forecast for the
How's
Masters
it looking? Yeah.
Looks perfect. Perfect weather. So
I'm glad during the tournament we had good weather. I would rather that and rain during our golf rounds than vice versa.
Oh, 100%.
Yeah.
I mean, rainy round of golf, whatever.
Yeah.
But we had a perfect weather day on Tuesday.
I was battling demons the day before.
Yeah.
Out on the golf course, but we made it through.
Yeah. Yeah. You actually texted me like, what, a week? I think it was about a week ago. And you're like, dude, I was just thinking about Palmetto and that whole trip. And dude, it was just, I don't know, it's such a fun trip.
Yeah.
I hope we can run that back
We're going
again very soon.
Yeah.
But, coming out of 2025, obviously Rory won, Grand Slam winner. Justin Rose in a playoff with him. We'll get to some picks later on in the episode, but we've got some other themes too that are kind of, we'll see how they play out for this year, but it seems as though people that have won the Players Championship have also tended to play well in that year's Masters too, with Scotty, with Rory, Cam Young now winning the Players Championship. So let's just jump in and
sounds good.
Shoot the shit and
keep
let's
things let
going.
it rip.
So I guess to start, for people that may not have done a ton of research in the Masters, or maybe this is some of the first time they're really leaning into it, we covered a lot of the history of how the Masters started last year, but the first one was 1934. So kind of the summary is Bobby Jones and Clifford Roberts built really what they would consider the dream course out of a former nursery in Augusta, Georgia. So it was formerly called Fruitland, and they named it Augusta National. They brought on an architect, Dr. Alistair McKenzie, who has created multiple just absolute gems around the entire country. A lot of inspiration from St. Andrews, but if you can think like 1934, the club's getting built, the Masters is starting. It's also during the Great Depression time frame. The club nearly failed. They were in a ton of debt. They ended up selling to a group of members at that time, and then they started the Augusta National Incorporation. So they were able to save Augusta National and the Masters, even though there was a really popular tournament that just happened in 1935.
Little did they know it would turn into what it is today.
I mean, there's no way that they could have known.
Yeah.
But hopefully, I mean, I don't know. I definitely, in my visits to Augusta, you just feel the history
right
as you're walking the grounds.
Yeah.
And just, I don't know. There's just something, you felt it last year for the first time, but still, it's like I've been fortunate to go a few times, and each time I'm just still so amazed.
Yeah.
And I don't think that'll ever leave me because so much has happened there. But so for today's episode, what I want to talk about is really some key tournaments or key champions that have gone through the Masters since its inception. So this will be the 90th year this year, so it's been around for a while. The only times that it has not been played was during World War II.
Okay.
So there were, I think, 2 or 3 years. I believe it was 3 years that the Masters was not played because of World War II. But in 1935, this is really pivotal. We did a deeper dive into this last year. Yeah. So if people want to learn more about that, go back and listen to that episode. But this was really the year of survival, right? So this was Augusta having to survive as a corporation. Masters aside, the business itself was struggling. But Gene Sarazen coming down the stretch, he's behind. He hits a 4-wood on number 15, makes it for a double eagle. Unbelievable course of events that took place. It absolutely shocked the world, and that really put the Masters on the map, right? From a media perspective.
This was the shot heard around the world?
This was.
Okay,
yeah. So even though it had gotten all this attention, all this press, the Masters still wasn't financially stable. So that's then whenever the organization ended up basically dissolving the entity and sold it to another group of members.
Okay.
So it's almost kind of like a foreclosure, and other members just bought it for parts because during the Great Depression, there weren't many people looking to buy
relatively cheap, I would imagine, too.
I think it was $30,000 is what they ended up buying it for.
I guess back then would be, I guess that would be. I mean, back then that's probably a lot of money.
It's a lot of money, but I mean,
for what it is, though.
Yeah. They bought it. So if I remember the numbers correct, they bought it for $75,000 back in 1931, 32. And they racked up some debt. So I think they had like around $150,000 in debt, but then they ended up selling for 30. Wow. Or the members bought it for 30. So, so anyways, this is really the first moment of the Masters that really put it on the map, right? It wasn't a major at this point in time, wasn't considered a major at this point in time. But, this was obviously something that, Gene Sarazen being a legend for his time. That's just kind of a shout out to the origins of the Masters, right? It wasn't for another couple of years that it then started to be kind of considered a major. But 1935, all about survival.
Okay.
Fast forward a little bit to 1958. So this was Arnold Palmer. Final round, there was some chaos that took place in him winning the green jacket. So there was a ruling at the time in 58 where, because there was so much rain that week, there was a local rule that was installed for the Masters for embedded balls. Okay. So we know that now, right? Yeah. If your ball plugs, you get relief from that. I don't think this was a really common rule at the time, but it was a local rule to Augusta that they used for the Masters in the tournament. So Arnie on number 12, right there on Amen Corner, he hits a shot that ends up what he considers to be embedded. He calls in a rules official. The official said, you're not entitled to relief, but you can basically play 2 balls if you want, and then we'll get together as as a group.
Yeah.
So that's pretty typical for how things are handled. I mean, nowadays they've got rules officials with most groups, or at least following the key groups. But playing 2 balls and then let them determine it later. But obviously you're playing a major championship,
right? And
you kind of want to know where you stand. So in this year, he was going head to head battling with Ken Venturi, who phenomenal player of his time too, great amateur as well. So his tee shot plugged on 12. that ball that he played, he ended up making double with.
Okay.
After he holed out that ball, he then went back and played the second one, took his relief, and ended up making par. So the rules officials came back and they actually ruled that that he would be able to take the relief and, in fact, keep his par,
Okay.
which directly then translated to him being able to win the Masters, right? Of course, this was controversial with Ken Venturi. They came up to him, I think it was a few holes later, to let him know. But this was crucial to his victory because it was a slim margin. And, you know, of course, if you're the player, you're gonna take advantage of any rules
That go your way.
that you can.
Yeah.
But you also don't want to be like a Patrick Reed in the situation.
Yeah.
You know, like
Fair-
there's a
fair call.
balance with that, right?
Yeah.
Like Scotty has taken advantage of certain things from
Yeah.
a rules perspective. All players have at some point, but I remember last year the U.S. Open, I believe it was, at Oakmont. I know there was a lot of controversy over like casual water basically being in the fairway.
Right.
Guys taking divots and just like getting splashed in the face with water.
Yeah.
But anyways, this was really critical for the Masters itself because it kind of launched Arnie into stardom. This was right around the time that media was starting to pick up, so television was was more and more of a big thing. It really transformed the Masters into such a just a fan-driven event that
Right.
they would be able to go and attend. So some really cool stuff with, because Arnie's always been like known as the face of that time.
Right.
Right.
Yeah.
He was the people's champ of that time. But what was really interesting to me and where I kind of went down a little bit of a rabbit hole too was learning about some of the history of Amen Corner and where that came about. So before we kind of dive into that, I want to take us back to last year.
Yeah.
Whenever we first walked into Amen Corner. If you can just like go back in time to a year ago, tell me what you were thinking and how do you feel about it now, a year removed? Can you still kind of picture things and feel it?
Yeah. I mean, that's probably where we spent throughout that day. That's where we spent a majority of our time. I mean, we walked all 18 holes. Of course, stopped in for some beers and some food, etc. But I think what's interesting is everyone. I don't know if you would call it like an unwritten rule, but like everyone lets you enjoy that moment. And that was whenever we like sat in some random people's chairs, thinking they're probably walking the grounds. Little did we know we got up to go then continue walking, and those guys, you know, I basically acknowledged we were sitting in their chair and we're just like, enjoy the rest of your day, etc. And it was just like, I don't know. I mean, there was probably the most crowded area too was in Amen Corner. And I don't know, it was just unique, right? Like that's an area where I feel like everyone wants to see what it's about, feel kind of the historic, you know, the history of that area of the course. So
yeah,
it was fun, man. I would probably consider that one of the bigger highlights of that day was just being able to be there on Amen Corner.
Yeah. I love that. It's definitely such a special place. Like if I really try and just like think about or like meditate on that area, it's such a peaceful, such a tranquil area. Even though there's so many people there, it is very eerily just peaceful.
Yeah. Yeah.
But Amen Corner, it wasn't always called Amen Corner, right? That had to come from somewhere. So of course I wanted to dive down that rabbit hole and figure out like where did this originate. So for those that don't know, Amen Corner at Augusta is 11, 12, and 13, right there at that bend. So really the main area is kind of right by the tee box at 12 because you can see so much from that area. Big tall pine trees. There is a big wide open area too. You've obviously got Rays Creek and big scoreboards and other things that are all right in that area. Just a sweet spot to be able to watch multiple different shots.
Yeah.
So it was back in 1958 during this round that Arnold was playing, and it was Herbert Warren Wind. That was a Sports Illustrated article that he had published, and he referred to the spot where players needed to basically pray to make par through Amen Corner, because that critical stretch of the course often decides who the Masters champion is going to be, right? And we've seen this time and time again. I mean, think about Rory last year, right? On 13, he basically hit a wedge shot 50 yards right of his target.
Yeah.
Which, if you gave him 100 opportunities to do that, he probably wouldn't do that again. But anyways, crazy stuff has happened, right? 2019, that's where the flip script, Francesco Molinari hit in the water, Finau hit in the water, Brooks Koepka hit in the water. All of a sudden, Tiger really starts to make his charge starting at 12. So many interesting, spots of, that being the area that does determine the champions. But I wanted to go a little bit of a layer deeper, like, okay, is there anything else about Amen Corner? And I guess the name actually came from a jazz record by this woman named Mildred Bailey, and the name of the song was called Shoutin' in That Amen Corner.
Okay.
And where this really originated was in the late 1900s, the late 1800s. The center of Bible manufacturing was really kind of in the lower part of New York City. So what ended up happening was people were basically preaching on street corners, right? And a lot of people were hearing these sermons and shouting amen, right? So that's where the whole phrase of Amen Corner started to really get its popularity. Then this jazz singer sings about it, and then Herbert Warren Wind uses it in a Sports Illustrated article to talk about this corner of the golf course.
Yeah.
Right? So anyways, interesting stuff with that. I would kind of classify that Masters in 1958 as really, we've entered popularity, right? This is now mainstream, I would say, because TV is a big thing. You've got Arnold Palmer, who's a great face for the game. But yeah, any thoughts on that with 58?
I mean, that's just it's just a unique part of the course, right? Like, we've seen it, right? Players live and die either in that stretch of holes, right? I mean, you can name any other hole that's probably more challenging, but what's funny is I think going into it on a Sunday round, that's in the back of their head is like, all right, I'm going through 11, 12, 13.
Mm-hmm.
But it makes me wonder, do these guys also, I mean, they're obviously blocking it out. They're able to perform, they're able to play, but in the instances where they don't, do you think they're going back and saying like, shit, like wasn't able to hit the shot or whatever, and like deep down they know like this is where I fucked up, was Amen Corner.
Mm-hmm. Well, Jordan Spieth, I think would say that.
Yeah.
I mean, we love Jordan, right? He's a University of Texas alum, but what was it, 2015 that he dumped in the water? I think made triple on 12. He hasn't won a major since. Right. He's won, I think, one golf tournament since. So not only is it something that they think about before the tournament, obviously during the tournament, but it could also have lasting impacts afterwards.
Crazy. Yeah. Spieth, man, he needs to get redemption.
He does. He's actually been playing pretty good so far this year, though. So interesting to
keep an eye on.
We'll see what happens with that. So another round of the Masters, and really just kind of a year that I felt like was a really significant year, was back in 1975. Okay. So massive duel really between the three of the biggest names of that time. But you've got Jack Nicklaus, you've got Johnny Miller, and you've got Tom Weiskopf. So they're battling down the stretch. I want to expand on this a little bit, but the vault we talked about it a little bit earlier, but the Masters has released this portion of the website called The Vault. Highly encourage you and everybody to go dive into it. I found myself watching basically the entire stretch of this round and several others, but kind of think through, okay, so we walked the second 9 at Augusta. Nicklaus is coming down the stretch. He birdies 15, 16, and 17. And you've also got Johnny Miller and Tom Weiskopf, who are in the mix with an opportunity to tie Jack Nicklaus coming down on 18. Both Johnny Miller and Tom Weiskopf missed some makeable birdie opportunities on 18. I think why this matters is really just a demonstration of the competitiveness that can go into the Masters, right? The second 9 at the Masters on Sunday is, arguably one of the most sought after sporting events and most viewed events throughout the year. I'm sure there's some other things like World Cup games and stuff like that, but definitely for people like us and even people that don't play golf, they'll tune into the Masters.
More and more people are tuning into it.
Yeah. So, I mean, obviously there were a lot of battles that took place at the Masters too. When you think about people like Hogan, and you think about, Gary Player, and you think about so many other greats that went through, Augusta. But I think 75 was a really interesting one. If you go back and look too at just some of the footage and the vault, you'll see just how close some of these guys were.
Yeah.
So we know Jack Nicklaus for winning the 18 majors, right? I think he's got 19 runner-ups too. So
no way. Okay.
Unbelievable amount of runner-ups. But there were a lot of those victories that he won that were slim margins. It wasn't like he was blowing out the fields and some of these. There could have been a playoff between either Johnny Miller or Weiskopf,
right,
and 75. But anyways, I would say 75 is really kind of like the main theme with that is just competitiveness.
75. Nicklaus was how old by then?
Well, in 86 he was 46.
Okay, so then 35.
So he was 35 years old.
Okay.
Yeah, 35. So our age, basically. Yeah. Speaking of 86 though too, this is a very well-known Masters in the catalog of all the historical significance that has taken place there. But yeah, Jack Nicklaus ended up winning the 86 Masters at age 46.
This was the one where a lot of people were ruling him out, saying his prime years were behind him, right? That was I would imagine the Sunday round where he shows up in plaid pants, little polo. Another come from behind victory.
Another come from behind victory, and I mean, yeah, if you think about it, he's 46. So
yeah,
by that point, like the Tom Brady's of the world, the LeBrons of the world weren't really around. Back then.
Yeah,
right? They took care of themselves, but they didn't have access to the stuff that we have today. Right. But yeah, he was kind of, I mean, he was out of his heyday, his prime.
Yeah.
And watching some footage on the vault and even listening to the interviews in Butler Cabin, he talks about, Jack does, I've been playing terrible this year. I only started playing good a week ago, which is crazy. But
what a time to start playing good.
I mean, might as well be the week before the Masters. But just some really cool stuff that what I've read about so much of this, and I've seen clips of this, on TV and things like that. I've watched, some YouTube clips, but actually being able to go into the vault and just watching the broadcast as if I was sitting in my living room in 1986 watching this battle take place, right? So you've got Seve Ballesteros, who was in the lead heading into the final round. A lot of guys that were all right there in the hunt. So very, very competitive, right? Tom Kite, Greg Norman, several guys that were all right there in the hunt. So Jack started the day 4 strokes behind. And it wasn't until that second 9, really the last 10 holes, that he started to make a big splash. So he ended up shooting 7 under in his last
Okay.
10 holes. And one of those was he bogeyed 12. But he was 7 under his last 10 holes and ended up winning his 6th Masters at that time. Really cool, though, to watch. He had a son, Jackie Nicklaus, the second, on the bag. So just like really just sweet moments of him putting his arm around Jackie. And even like during the round on 15, I remember there was a clip where he made eagle on 15. And he went over and he was hugging Jackie, and he's interacting with the crowd so much. It was almost like he was celebrating, and like, I mean, he's, the greatest accomplished golfer of all time, but it was almost like he was kind of stepping out of like the ultra focus mode.
Okay.
And he wasn't like, I don't know. It didn't seem like he was considering that, hey, I might actually win this thing.
Yeah.
Even though at the time he was right there in the hunt.
Like somewhat checking out in a way.
Yeah, I don't know if like checking out is the right word, but typically professionals, whenever they know that they're in the hunt of a major championship, and really most tournaments, they're focused. They're not waving to the fans a ton, right? They'll acknowledge them, but they're not going to interact with the fans. They're not going to hug their caddy.
Right.
It's his son, obviously, so it's a little bit different. But I think he just knew that this was just a really special day.
Yeah.
So
and moment.
The footage was just incredible, but I mean, yeah, to be 10 under in your last, or I'm sorry, 7 under in your last 10 holes, pretty remarkable.
Yeah.
But some interesting stuff that I was watching again on the broadcast. I'd always known that Jack won in 86, but I didn't necessarily know how he won.
Mm-hmm.
So what was interesting to me, Tom Kite, who was also in the hunt, he was down 1 going into 18. And he ended up sticking it to about 10 feet on 18. Had a really, really good look for his birdie putt to tie and force a playoff. He ended up missing it. Left it a little bit short. Not like short distance wise. Like he got it to the hole, but had he had a little bit more pace on it, it would have dropped.
Yeah.
So yet again, another situation where Jack Nicklaus, he won the Masters, and he had some fortune from some other competitors not necessarily converting, right? And then also Greg Norman, who at the time was the #1 player in the world, really accomplished, fierce competitor. He birdied 14, 15, 16, and 17.
Damn, what a stretch.
To tie going into 18.
Yeah.
What was super interesting, though, is on 17, he actually slipped on his tee shot. The announcers didn't really talk about this, but I saw it when I was watching the broadcast. He slipped, and he ended up pulling his drive way left.
Okay.
Basically over onto 7, almost on 7 green. But his shot, he had to kind of thread the needle between 2 pine trees. So when you're looking at this, you're like, he's just trying to say par at best at this point, right? He threads it perfectly, punches it up, and I think it ends up around like 10, 12, maybe 15 feet from the hole.
Yeah.
Drains it. Goes to 18. And he is tied for the lead now with Jack Nicklaus. So gets on 18, ends up, he didn't hit driver on 18, he hit 3 wood. And he was long for the time as well, but hits it perfectly in the fairway, gets it around the corner. And then during his second shot on 18, his approach, he slipped again.
Again?
And this time pushed it way right. And
which foot slipped?
His right foot.
Okay.
Yeah. So again, I don't know. Maybe the announcers just didn't see it at the time, but it's very obvious that you can see his foot slipping back, both on 17 and the second shot on 18. He ends up hitting a way right. He's in the gallery. They're having to like clear out the gallery. He's got this very, very tiny spot to hit this chip shot. Hits a beautiful bump and run. Ends up probably being about 15 feet from the hole for par to tie and force a playoff. Ends up missing it, unfortunately.
Shoot.
So some good fortune for Jack. Right. Also, fun fact too, Greg Norman never won the Masters, even though he was really the dominant player for the time. There was one other year that he was in contention. He actually had a 6-shot lead 10 years later.
No way.
In 96, he had a 6-shot lead. Ended up shooting a 78 in the final round and lost to Nick Faldo.
Okay.
By 5 strokes.
That's brutal.
So, yeah. So 86, I would kind of label the 86 Masters as just legacy.
Yeah. Just
pure legacy for Jack Nicklaus.
That's crazy.
What are your thoughts on that?
I mean, just the dude, even at that old age, to be able to go perform, not that 46 is old, but it just kind of shows like who he was as a player, right? Like still to be able to go out, not necessarily dominate, but keep himself in a golf tournament to go out and, gets a few lucky breaks with the competition, but to be able to continue to execute. And that was his last Masters win, right?
That was his last Masters win. Yeah.
I mean, it's just, it's incredible.
So while I was listening to the broadcast, I couldn't help but hear a familiar voice. And I swore, I was like, that's got to be Jim Nantz. And it was whenever Jack Nicklaus was playing number 16, so the par 3. And I was like, it's got to be Jim Nantz. So I started, searching, when did Jim Nantz start broadcasting the Masters to see if it was in fact him. Obviously, it's got a very recognizable voice, right? So I looked into this, and 1986 was the first Masters that Jim Nantz started broadcasting as a course reporter. So he was assigned to number 16 at that time. And it wasn't until a few years later in 89, whenever he took over, full broadcasting as one of the anchors.
What an epic hole to be like your first year as a broadcaster on 16.
You're watching Jack Nicklaus. We just Eagles 15.
Yeah.
And if you're Jim Nantz, you're at 16. You're watching Jack Nicklaus come up. This is the traditional Sunday pin. Jack sticks it up on the slope. It rolls back, has a very short putt, makes the birdie. Jim Nantz there just with the incredible call, right? Even as a young man.
Yeah.
And what I was thinking about, because, obviously this time of year, like, this is really when, I don't know, like, golf is, like, really taking off.
Yeah.
Right? So daylight savings is switched over. It's fully springtime. We can feel that. The Masters is on. And you hear Jim Nantz's voice, and you're just like, man, we're back. This is beautiful. Yeah, we are back.
We're so back.
But, for him to be at the Masters for 40 years, this will be his 40th year, right? So, the amount of history that guy has seen.
Yeah. Epic run.
Thoroughly envious, jealous. I would love to sit down and just talk to Jim Nantz about, like, it's got to be surreal to him, I would think.
Yeah, you got to imagine it is.
Yeah. So part of what he's witnessed, obviously a lot of things that he has witnessed over the last 39, coming up on 40 years. But the last kind of tournament that we'll talk about, or the last champion that we'll talk about for this particular episode, but 1997. So the emergence of Tiger Woods, right? 21 years old, goes out and absolutely dominates Augusta National. He won by a record 12 strokes.
Still holds that record?
12 strokes. Why this matters. One is, Tiger obviously had a very accomplished junior career, very accomplished amateur career. Went into, didn't graduate college from Stanford, just turned pro. I think a lot of pros at that time too were expecting him to get humbled by the scene, because it is different, right? Objectively, it's very different playing amateur golf versus professional,
right?
But Tiger didn't let that phase him, and he just went in and absolutely dominated. He was also the first black champion at the Masters, which is, pretty remarkable when you think of the tournament starting in 1934 and then 1997 being the first black champion. So what I kind of would consider this as is really like the transformation of not just the Masters. The Masters already was solidified as a incredible golf tournament and very historically significant, but transformation for the sport of golf.
Yeah.
So when people talk about the GOAT conversation, Jack Nicklaus, this is just my take, right? Jack Nicklaus, objectively the most accomplished champion of golf. But Tiger Woods transformed the game and has the accolades as an established champion, right? It's probably not going to break Jack's record, but Jack, with all due respect, to him, he did not transform the game like Tiger Woods did.
I think for his time during that time period, he probably did to some degree that we'll probably never know. But Tiger basically enforced with his record and his accolades, golf into what we know today.
Mm-hmm.
Right. So,
I mean, he was certainly the most athletic golfer to play at that point in time. There were a lot of guys that also took really good care of their health that were tremendous athletes.
Yeah.
Right. Ben Hogan being one of them, Gary Player being another, just a couple that come to mind that always focus on their physical performance. And again, I think Jack Nicklaus is the greatest of all time from an objective perspective as a champion. Tiger just had that next factor of transforming the game. And it was also, the 90s were a beautiful time, right? We were growing up during that time. And, this is the rise of the internet era. You've got Jurassic Park in the box office. You've got Men in Black that is coming in. Harry Potter is launched. Like all these different things. Like the 90s were a phenomenal decade. So there was already so much positivity going on just across the United States and even globally at that time, that this was really just a complete generational shift with Tiger in 97. So anyways, I thought, those 5 champions, 1935 with Gene Sarazen, just the survival aspect. Fast forward, 23 years, you've got Arnold Palmer really bringing the popularity into the Masters. Nicklaus in 75, just the raw competition. And then again in 86 with Jack, just the legacy taking off. And then 97, obviously the transformation with Tiger. So any final thoughts on
I mean, I think just to add to that, like he also, I feel like, brought what we would consider swagger to the game. I mean, this was a guy that was, I wouldn't say emotional, but he brought a little bit of emotion to some of these putts that he made or shots that he hit, right? I think some of that is influenced by the roars of the crowds, etc., and like, people kind of following him along, but there was a little bit of swagger that got introduced to the sport as well.
Mm-hmm.
So
I agree. And actually, I'm glad you brought up the roars, because one thing that when I was watching the broadcast from 86, what was interesting, so Seve was the leader going into the final round. I'm almost positive, but he had hit it in the water on 16, I believe. And some of the roars with Jack were really starting to erupt.
Okay.
Seve, I believe he was 1 off the lead at 8 under whenever he was on 17. Right in his backswing, massive roar comes from 18.
Okay.
Ends up 3-putting 17, made bogey.
Really?
So he was definitely a little bit frustrated, but handled it with such class. But again, I think that's just where the fandom of the Masters, like the patrons that are attending the Masters, it is just next level. Yeah. Right. There's no other golf tournament that has just the roars that can carry just through just such a historically significant
Yeah.
area of the world. But you know, something else that I want to chat with you about, and kind of joining us here is our other companion
little
for
fella.
the episode, the Masters gnomes. So in looking at some other history of the Masters, you know, there's so much tradition that takes place. The gnomes, champions dinners, obviously the green jacket, the history of the caddies as well. But I want to start with some things related to the gnomes, because this was something that was big on our
Yeah.
radar from last year. This is not a historically significant you know, collectible that's been around. It actually only started back in 2016. So the merchandise group for the Masters are rolling out the gnomes. So this will be the 10th year. There are some rumors
Yeah. Some
that
unfortunate rumors.
the gnomes might disappear, because the Masters definitely takes things pretty seriously as far as, you know, reselling stuff, and they want to keep the true integrity of the
Right.
tournament in place. So what do you think? Should Augusta and the Masters consider removing the gnome? Do we just continue letting it ride? What do we think?
Dude, I think we continue letting it ride. Like, yes, it's unfortunate, you know, there's like a secondary market, and I forget what this costs, maybe like $60, $50 or something.
Yeah.
These are going on the black, or not black market, but the secondary market for hundreds of dollars. And I can understand protecting the integrity of the tournament and whatnot, but at the end of the day, it's like, you can't take it from the people that find intention of the gnome, right? At the end of the day, there's people, it's like, you can't let a few bad actors ruin it for the rest of us. It's unfortunate, but you can't get rid of it.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And plus, each year the gnome keeps getting better. Like the one that they're releasing this year is sick.
The
dude.
umbrella.
The umbrella.
Yeah.
And it's like, dude, I mean, just the amount of creativity that they put into the gnomes, everyone appreciates it and loves. And to some degree, like, you kind of got to appreciate that there's people willing to spend money to ensure that they get one, right?
Mm-hmm.
So, like, I get it from a ticket standpoint, but yeah, I think they should keep it.
Yeah. I actually was cruising around because I wanted to see just, you know, what some of these are going for. And you're right. Like the gnomes, historically, they'll go for, you know, a few $100, several $100s on places like eBay. I saw one collector that has all of the gnomes since they started releasing them.
Someone that's collecting them or selling them?
He has the entire collection and he's selling them.
For how
all
much?
Still in the box. What do you think?
Let's see. They go for a couple $100. I don't know, maybe $1,500, $1,200
for all of them.
For all 10, maybe $2,000.
$40,000.
Fuck that, dude.
$40,000.
Oh my god! How long has it been on sale or for sale?
I didn't look into that too
Okay.
deep. I mean, I saw the price tag and I was like, okay, yeah, maybe. I mean, well, one, if I won the lottery, I would hopefully just be able to go to the Masters myself.
Yeah.
Every year and, you know,
Go pick one up.
Yeah, just go pick one up and have my own collection. But that to me is like, okay, that is where I can see from the Masters
Right.
perspective, like, has this gotten out of hand?
Yeah.
But any collectibles that's going to take place.
Yeah.
Doesn't matter if it's a gnome. I mean, I saw Master stuff on there, like vintage hats and shirts that are going for way, way above what they're selling for in the pro shop. But
I mean, we spent a little bit of money in that pro shop, but to go out and buy on the secondary market something for 3, 4, 5x what it's worth, or what people buy it for, I mean, you have to. Some things mean certain things to certain people, right? And there's probably gonna be people willing to spend it, but that's tough.
Yeah, I mean, who knows? Maybe the Masters will release some other collectible that is gnome-esque.
Yeah,
but at least for now, you know, we've got this little guy. So
yeah, I got mine sitting in the office.
He's crushing his peach ice cream sandwich. just, he's got his master's chair in the background, but
He's ready to go to Amen Corner.
yeah, he's ready to go. So obviously there's so many other traditions with the Masters too. It's rich with tradition, but one of the ones that has gotten even more visibility now is the Champions Dinner.
Yeah.
So again, this was something that I think we touched on it last year a little bit, but I wanted to dive into like, what are the origins of this? Who started it? And just kind of understand how it's evolved to where it is today, right? Because if you think about it, so the Champions Dinner is hosted on the Tuesday of Masters Week, right? And you've got all of the former champions and the current champion that are in attendance. Probably, well, not probably, definitely the most exclusive dinner on the face of the planet, I would argue. So in looking at some of the history of it, it actually started back in 1952.
Okay.
And it was started by fellow Texan Ben Hogan.
Okay.
So defending champion Ben Hogan, he wanted to do a private gathering of past winners and really just to celebrate the tournament and its history. Yeah. Shout out Ben Hogan for creating such an incredible tradition. But start off as a pretty just a simple tradition. I know some other tournaments do have this now, their own kind of version of this. But really, the most elite dinner that you could imagine, because it's not something, doesn't matter how many billions of dollars you have in the bank, you're not getting an invite to this dinner unless you have slipped on that green jacket, which is so incredible. That is like, it's the definition of meritocracy.
Yeah.
So I think what is so cool, and after the dust settled, Rory had to think like, I can't fucking wait to be finally a part of this Champions Dinner.
Yeah.
Right. And, his menu has been published, and I want to talk about a couple of the menus, but, that's got to be one thing that he is just so looking forward to as a champion.
I think what's cool is we had the opportunity to see the people arriving to the Tuesday dinner because we were at that practice round last year. And it was, obviously it was roped off, so, everyone was kind of watching at bay, but it was pretty cool to see, some of these players and these wives starting to gather, grabbing, pre-dinner cocktails, etc. The wives dragging the husbands to get photos under the tree. Mm-hmm. So it was cool to witness at least some degree of that kind of night and how it starts to unfold, etc. But yeah, it was a cool moment.
Yeah, I think last year we saw Scotty.
Saw Sergio.
Meredith. Saw Sergio.
Yeah.
Also an Austin resident.
Yeah.
John Rahm.
Yeah.
Saw John Rahm too. Tiger wasn't in attendance last year. I think we saw Spieth.
Did we? I don't remember.
We'll have to go back through the camera roll. Yeah. But yeah, that was super cool because, the other couple times that I was at the Masters, it was Monday and then Wednesday. Yeah. Wednesday was cool because the par 3 contest, another really sweet tradition of the Masters. But Tuesday was really cool because it's like, man, that's as close as we will ever get.
That's as close as you can possibly get to getting into that dinner.
Yeah. But I think this kind of speaks to the significance of the Masters and it paying its respects to previous champions and getting all of these legends of the game together. Thank God for Ben Hogan for having the thought to get everybody together,
right?
To really celebrate the rich history and the accomplishments and all of those different things. So what I have come to understand too about the Champions Dinner is that the champion does pick up the tab.
Oh, I did not know this.
So it can be a pretty pricey endeavor.
Oh gosh.
Right? we're not in the business of throwing shade at people, but there have been better champions dinners than others out there. I think Bubba Watson is most widely known as the least desirable champions dinner. I think it was like I forget what the exact menu was for him, but it was basically like an elementary kids dinner.
You know what? I see that for him.
But even just like, obviously you've got people that have been there multiple times. I did look at Scotty's champions.
I remember
dinner.
Scotty's being pretty good.
It's very similar to the two dinners that he has had have both been pretty similar.
Yeah.
It's like Texas ribeye, cowboy ribeye, black and red fish, chocolate chip cookie for dessert.
Yeah.
And then like some other good sides.
Yeah.
But Hideki Matsuyama, also probably most widely known as one of the best Masters meals because, he's Japanese.
Yeah.
So it was unbelievable assortments of, sushi and sashimi and all the, just the best fish.
That's so sick.
Which, I mean, incredible.
Yeah.
Right. I was reading too, like Tiger one year, because he's won it, 5 times now. Tiger one year served cheeseburgers and milkshakes. Just like
classic.
Simple stuff. So some guys go all out. Some of them are a little bit tighter on the budget.
Yeah.
But Rory's got a pretty good menu.
I like his menu.
Kind of a combination of like modern cuisine, really fine wine, but then also some Irish touches in there. So I'm curious. Let's say you did win the Masters and you got to attend this with all of these legends of the game. What would be your champions?
Gosh, now that I know that the winner picks up the tab, that kind of changes things.
I mean, you do win the Masters. Like, Rory won, I think it was like 2.1, 2.2 million last year. So like, I mean, he's doing okay.
Yeah.
Right.
Gosh, let's see. I'd probably do like starters, like a mix of like a classic Caesar salad, and some oysters. And then I'm kind of a big surf and turf guy. So like some variety of a steak, whether it be a filet or like bone-in ribeye or something. And either a fish or like a lobster tail. And then a good solid chocolate chip cookie from Hot Take Dough.
Shout out Hot Take.
With a little scoop of vanilla ice cream.
Yeah.
And then a good like cocktail and a good wine. So, either like a whiskey sour, an old fashioned, and like a good red or white wine or something for the guys. Well, that would be mine. What about you?
You're making me hungry with that. I feel like mine would be actually pretty similar.
Yeah.
I like the surf and turf aspect. I think oysters to start would be phenomenal. I would want to work in some sort of sashimi.
Yeah, that's a good call.
Which I understand would rack up the bill, but hey, I'm gonna do it right. I mean,
you're at a dinner, like fuck the budget, fuck the tab. Like,
I want my fellow champions to respect.
Right.
I want them to walk away being like, hey, that was incredibly delicious. And we also aren't walking away feeling like, we have to, get picked up by a crane.
Yeah.
We're just like overly full.
Right.
So I think oysters, some sashimi, maybe pieces of nigiri, but get like some greens in there. So like a good Caesar salad would be great. But then, main course, I'd like to lean into the surf and turf.
Yeah.
I would probably go, ribeye or filet, but then I'd probably do king crab legs.
Yeah. Damn, that's a good call.
So that's going to be a hefty bill with that. But king crab legs with that. And then sides, like I would load up with sides.
Yeah.
Mashed potatoes.
You're a big mashed potatoes guy.
Mac and cheese.
Big mac and cheese guy.
Like really solid Brussels sprouts. We'd have a really good assortment of sides. Dessert, I would probably have my wife's grandma cook or bake a carrot cake.
Okay. You know, for the people that don't know this, Cody is the carrot cake final boss. Like, he is that guy.
Well, I appreciate that. You know, shout out to my wife's grandma Pat.
I got to get some of this.
For hooking it up. But yeah, the Champions Dinner, obviously great history. So much at the Masters, you know, even as I was like every year around the Masters time, I bust out all the collectibles that I have. I want to read through some of the material and just like get in the mode, you know, study the past champions again and really just kind of get in the mode for the tournament.
Yeah.
Which, yeah, that's just, people are probably like, wow, that's a pretty nerd quality, but whatever. I don't care. Fascinated with the tournament, love the history of it. You know, one other thing is when you look back at some of the old rounds and the vault or just clips and things like that, Augusta National used to mandate players to use their caddies.
Mm-hmm.
So players weren't able to use their normal week-to-week caddy. They had to use somebody from Augusta National.
Okay.
It wasn't until 1983 that players were allowed to start bringing their own caddies. Some people actually decided to stick with their own caddies. So Ben Crenshaw, another native Texan, is a good example of that. He always kept his same Augusta National caddy.
Okay. Yeah.
Would love to do an episode on Ben Crenshaw.
Yeah.
Obviously
We have to.
Being an Austinite too, but yeah. So any other, what other traditions come to mind?